Hi everyone, and welcome to match 3, game 2. Black won the first game with a cube, and so he's ahead 2-0. That's 5 away, 7 away. And so remember, with a lead like that, then some of the cube decisions do change. Okay, so the leader is somewhat hesitant to use the cube. Not completely yet, but you know, is not going to whip it out quite so fast. And the trailer is looking for opportunities to cube, looking for complicated games to mix it up. Okay. So in this particular game, it's interesting. White gets into trouble early, but you know, seems to be turning things around and turns into kind of a mutual holding game. Yeah, a couple interesting decisions here, and one in particular that's related to our theme of fearless backgammon, but not in the way perhaps that you would expect. Okay, there's no fear factor graphic or anything like that. You'll see why. Okay, so enjoy the game, and I think there's some quite interesting moments to ponder here. And yeah, please leave any comments or you know, suggestions or anything like that, and I'll reply. Thanks very much. Right, let's start. Black is 5 away, white is 7 away, and black gets the first roll. 3-2, splits the back checkers, brings one checker down. White hits with the 2. Okay, this is a general play. Even if you're not necessarily behind in the score, you'll play this move. Okay, because you want to mix it up at the high levels. Notice that it's far behind this splitting of the back checkers, okay, which basically cedes the initiative to black, right? You want to force black to respond to you, okay? And one of the reasons why this is such a big mistake is because white is behind in the score. So white wants to hit, but normally white will hit even if he's not behind in the score here, in this kind of position. Okay, black hits and correctly goes to the golden point, getting ready to make that. Ouch, ouch. Don't you hate double sixes from the bar? Black has only 1 point in his home board and you stay out because of it. Okay, but it's not a disaster yet. Yes, black has an advantage, and black has a chance to make another homeboard point or bring checkers around, basically a free hand, but white is not out of it yet. But double threes does hurt. And black correctly builds up his homeboard, right? Hopefully he hopes to remake his 8 points soon. White comes back with a decent roll himself, double twos. Okay, so definitely you want to make the 4 point here and give your home board some teeth. But black still has the advantage. Okay, black is anchored up. This is kind of interesting, right? Because black is leaving a shot. A direct shot with sixes. But you know, it's not a disaster. White's home board isn't so strong. And there's no really good alternative. Notice it's a blunder to just hit down low there. That's not so useful at this point, you know, okay? Making the anchor is much more important. If you get hit, even if you get double hit with 6-3, you know, it's still very much a game, right? And white has to be pretty lucky to do that. So making the anchor is priority here. Now we come to a very interesting moment. And this is where, you know, I've mentioned this before, but be very careful about so-called automatic moves because especially in positions that you haven't necessarily seen before too much. Okay, of course, there's some positions where, yeah, it's obvious, bang, bang, you just play it, right? But this is, you know, a fairly unique position, and white should have paused here instead of like basically hitting automatically. Yeah. It doesn't look bad, and it's not bad, but part of the problem is that white has to think a little more about the long-term prospects after this move, okay? And if you think about long-term prospects, then making the bar point makes a lot of sense for white. You know, this basically really gives him, you know, gives him some play well into the game, whereas hitting, bad things can still happen to white after hitting. And, you know, think about, you know, look ahead and try to think about timing, try to think about how your position is going to develop. Notice after the hit, white still has 2 checkers back on the 24 point, right? Not ideal, yeah? And compared to this, where, you know, he's got that anchor and the checker on the 24 point can jump out if needs be with a 6. There are a lot of advantages, and there's no need to put an extra checker on the 8 point, right? After hitting, and that's pretty much a forced move, right? But you know, there's no special need for that. So even though it's very tempting to hit, white is far behind in the race, it's true, and hitting will even up that race a little, but race here isn't the only consideration, especially since we're kind of in a holding game after white makes the bar point like this. Okay, and in holding games, races are sometimes a racing advantage is a double-edged sword, because you might run out of time and have to break an anchor, run from an anchor, and get hit, right? So keep that in mind. In any ways, I guess as white, I just saw that I was behind in the race, and so I thought, you know, it makes sense to even up the race. And often XG likes this kind of idea of hitting to even out the race, but the alternative of making the bar point is just too strong and just gives you a lot of play going forward, long-lasting life, so to speak. Okay, well, black enters and hits, and boom, white can't get in. So this is one of the ideas behind why making the bar point made a lot of sense, just because white could get into some serious trouble soon if he's not able to enter soon. Okay, black has the possibility of making, you know, bringing down some checkers and making some more points in his home board, especially that 4 point. Okay, black can't make his 4 point, but he does make his 2 point, and establishes a 4 point home board. But notice, that this move is close as well, right? Just bringing out the back checker and bringing down a builder, because you really want to make that 4 point if you can. Making the 2 points nice, yes, but the 4 point really kind of has priority, but it's close here. It's very close. And black's move wasn't wrong, but it is something worth considering. Wow, white comes up with almost like a miracle roll, right? He's still at a disadvantage, okay? Black is still the favorite, but this makes a huge difference. And again, gives them that anchor, so that, you know, advanced anchor, so that there's a lot of potential going forward to turning the game around. Huge roll. And this, again, kind of accentuates the importance of that 4 point in black's home board. Okay, and white's the one that has made it. Okay, not much to really do here. And boom, double fives. Okay. The game is almost even after this. White has a 3-point board. He's got a strong outfield presence. Black's missing 8-point, makes his position a little comfortable for bringing all those checkers around. So, but yeah, it's still kind of very close right now, nip and tuck. Yeah, nice roll for tidying things up for black. And white jumps out. Wow. And we're into definitely a holding game here in the outfield, right? And basically, it looks like whoever might get some decent doubles will gain the advantage here. Okay, nothing to do with the 3-1. You definitely don't want to get hit here as black. The race is quite tight, and there's no need to take an unnecessary risks by playing like, I don't know, 18-14 or something like that, or 13-10. Some might consider 13-10 and 5-4, right, to go after that 4-point, but being hit in terms of the race is just costly here, and it just isn't worth the risk. Okay. This is kind of interesting. Not far behind is 13-4, but just keep in mind, you generally don't want to put what's called this dilly builder on the 4-point. It's not so useful, generally speaking, and instead white just slots the 2-point to make an extra point. Yeah. So it's not bad here, okay, but white would like to bolster his home board himself, so that kind of makes sense to start the 2-point and be able to play useful sixes. Okay. Right, black brings another checker to the midpoint. And now white pretty much has to go to the 4-point. Okay, slots the 4-point. And yeah, might as well slot to the 5-point. You might be able to make it in the future. Okay. Remember, sometimes people are hesitant to slot empty points like this, just in case the opponent makes a run for it. But in this case, it's unlikely. Black does have a spare on his on his midpoint. And so, and in general, like, you might be able to hit and cover, that kind of thing. So it's not something to worry about at this point. Okay, black has a 5-point home board, something not to sniff at, that's for sure. And white makes the 5-point. But of course, he does open himself up to the danger of rolling a 6 and exposing a checker, so exposing a blot. So let's see what happens. Okay, black plays safely, and white's able to play safely and make his own 5-point home board. And black is the first one to have to make a decision. Yeah. And he correctly safeties 1 checker and just gives 6s and 9s, right? 6s and 5-4, basically. Which, is a fair number of rolls, but not overwhelming advantage here. So white is not going to double here. He's not the favorite really to hit. So he has to hold on to the cube for now. Especially, even if he hits, there's a chance of black coming back in and hitting on the 2, and black has his own 5-point home board. So let's just double check the cube, and you see it's close. Okay, just because of this volatility. But look, the winning chance is 59% basically. So it's really, really tight. Yeah. Basically, if you feel comfortable doubling this, you're not wrong. But white does recognize that, it's perhaps a little early to be sending the cube over. And in fact, he rolls a 2-1. Okay, and there's nothing to do but just maintain his 5-point board by making the 2-point. And yeah, not a great roll from black either. And it's interesting that this is, any move that doesn't put black's checker on the 17 point is considered a blunder. Okay, so putting 18, 17, 8, 6 or 18, 17 slotting the 4-point, but 8, 5 blunder. Okay, and we're going to see why in just a minute. I mean, of course, there are fewer shots when you go to the 17 point. Okay, so that's definitely one thing to keep in mind. Okay, but there's another reason as well that we're going to see in just a minute. And white misses again. And now white really has no good choice other than just, leaving 2 open points in his home board. It's unfortunate, but he can't risk exposing a checker himself, by breaking the 16 point or something like that. Yeah. And kaboom! Wow, imagine if black had put his checker on the 17 point, the previous move, then this would be easily winning, right? Just bang, 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 bang. And it's basically huge racing lead and no blots. And instead, he's got to bury 2 checkers on the 1 point, okay, and leave a checker exposed again. So other than getting shots, again, you got to look at how numbers play, right? And even though you might think, oh, the chances of a double 6 are not very good, think about double 3s as well, right? Double 3s, or even like double 2s, reduce the shot equity. So yeah. Even small moves like 2-1 and where to play the 1, if you have time, then give it some thought because it might make the difference. Right, and this is an interesting moment because, this channel is called Fearless Backgammon. And so I have been trying myself to play with less fear. And so I considered this move and I thought, well, yes, it's true that, if black hits, I put black on the bar and he hits with a 6-5, then I could be in trouble. And that is 20 numbers, okay? And 5-1 hits 2 checkers, or 5-2 hits 2 checkers, or 6-1 hits 2 checkers. Okay, but I thought, there's 16 numbers out of 36 where black dances, and then I have a cash, maybe. I wasn't sure, but it seemed possible. Okay, because there are, definitely a lot of builders, but this is really a little too much. It's good to play without fear, but still, you've got to calculate things a little. And one of the things that white perhaps didn't take into sufficient account here is the gammons, okay? Because after this move, white has four blots around the board. And if black does enter from the bar, then white could be in serious danger of getting gammoned here, okay? Or perhaps even like if black were to hit all 4 checkers, then perhaps even a backgammon, okay? So it's just a little too much. And keep in mind that XG's recommended play is just to bury the checkers. And black still has a little work to do, right? He has to basically roll higher than a 9 to get completely out of danger. And so white is likely to get, a direct shot after playing this. And, he still has a 4-point board. So he's still in the game. It's true that black will probably double after this, but it's a take, and white definitely has chances. Okay, but after hitting, it's interesting. Black has a massive cube here. Okay. Not only is he a favorite, not by much agreed, but he's a favorite to hit from the bar. But then, the gammon chances, they're at 30%. Yeah. And so a doubled gammon here is worth a lot. It takes black to Crawford game, 1 away, 7 away, which is just like a huge, overwhelming advantage. And so it is really, even though it might seem like it's a bit optimistic, and keep in mind too that even if black dances, it's highly unlikely that I'm not even sure it's possible that black could close him out. White could close him out here. It is possible that white will be able to make a 5-point board again, but black will probably have the opportunity to enter into one of the points. So the game wouldn't be over even if black danced here. So yeah, quite a large cube. Look at that, 0.429. It's tremendous. It's still a take for white, but if white passed that, he really wouldn't be making a big mistake, would he? Okay. So yeah, very interesting moment, very volatile. But black has a lot of the cards here, and it makes sense to turn the cube, especially with those gammons. Yeah, doubled gammon is worth a huge amount in this position, and this is really where white didn't calculate correctly, because if he had known, right, that this was a clear double and almost a pass after hitting, then white, of course, wouldn't have done it. And so some inexperience, perhaps, some bravado that was misplaced on white's part, but let's see what happens. Well, maybe you can see already what happens. Black rolls double 6 from the bars. Well, the good news is black, the bad news is black hits a checker, comes in and hits a checker. The good news is black doesn't pick up any of the other blots. Okay, so the gammon chances are not as high. Okay, in fact, as you can see from the chart there, well, yeah, well, it is 32% actually after the hit. So it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for white, but it would look particularly bad if black were able to hit multiple checkers here. Okay, white can't enter. Ooh, double ones. That really hurts. Finally, black makes that 4-point, right? After waiting so long. And yeah, now it's looking very dire. Black is over 50% gammon chances here. Okay, 2-2. It's okay. Yeah, 1 checker off. And white is really fortunate to enter here. And all of a sudden, the gammon chances are back down to 30, which is nothing to sniff at, but at least, only 1/3 of the games, basically, end in a gammon. Okay, 6-4 is a very decent roll here. Okay, and black's just going to rip checkers off here. So, whoa, double 6s. Black just got double 6s, so it's just about fair, right? And this pretty much guarantees the saving of the gammon, yeah, luckily for white. So white escapes, but kind of by the skin of his teeth here. Okay, things were looking pretty dire. Okay, and black just doubles them out. Okay, so that's the game, and pretty exciting there at the end. And it is interesting, right? This idea of like, okay, fearless backgammon, but you still need to calculate, you still need to estimate what's going on, okay, in terms of winning chances, but also in terms of gammon chances, okay? And yes, it's good to play boldly, but make sure that you are considering, what's going to happen or what could happen, and how things can go right, but also how things could go very wrong, right? Okay, so it's still a balance, right? Fearless backgammon doesn't mean that you just play without fear and don't make the estimates, don't look at the odds, don't make the calculations. It just means keeping those things in mind, and playing kind of from a rational point of view, not necessarily from an emotional point of view. Okay, so black gets 2 more points, and black is ahead, right? 4-0. So 3 away, 7 away. And let's see if white is able to turn this around somehow, because black has definitely got the momentum. Okay, thanks. Leave some comments. And yeah, hope to see you for game 3 of match 3. Thanks.